In many stories from mythology to the Bible, angels are known to be the ones who will protect humanity and bring goodness. However, in the current world, it is completely opposite. Everywhere is devastated and broken by the destruction of angels. After all, what crime did humans commit to be punished like that? The story must be told 25 years ago, when God in heaven suddenly disappeared. The angels thought that it was humans who made God sad and disappeared. So under the leadership of Archangel Gabriel, they declared war with the intention of destroying humanity. However, those low-level angels do not have a body to act. They only exist as energy blocks. Therefore, the low-level angels can only come to Earth and steal the bodies of humans. Fortunately, Archangel Michael stood on the side of humanity. He not only waged war against heaven for humanity, he even tried his best to defeat Gabriel to help humanity repel the angelic army. However, after that great war, the world was devastated to the point of desolation. In the end, the survivors were forced to retreat to Vegas City and build strong defenses. Since then, the city lord Ed Oates has divided post-apocalyptic humanity into different ranks, including high-ranking nobles and low-ranking commoners, two classes that are worlds apart. Although the angelic army was defeated, Gabriel did not give up on destroying humanity. Very soon after, rumors spread that Michael had saved a boy that year. People believed that the boy was the reincarnation of Jesus, the savior of mankind in this great calamity. Back in the present world, a guy named Alex was looking for supplies in the abandoned city of Vega. When he turned around, Alex discovered three angels playing cards in the distance. However, he accidentally made a noise, causing three angels with fierce faces to turn their heads to look at him. One of them even teased him, asking if he wanted to play together. Because he was scared, Alex immediately opened fire and took care of one of them. Then the other two saw this scene and became angry. Among them, there was a fat woman who flipped the table and rushed straight at him. Knowing that he could not fight back, Alex immediately planned to run away. However, he did not expect that although she was fat, she was extremely flexible. She could climb the wall and move quickly. Luckily, Alex had long legs, so he was able to run towards his car in time. However, one of them turned into an angel and chased after Alex's car. In the dangerous situation, Alex tried to keep his grip on the steering wheel while calling for help from the base, and at the same time told them to open the main gate. However, the monster suddenly broke the window to attack him. After a fierce fight, this giant bird still clung to his car like a lizard, clinging to glass. Moreover, it also smashed the windshield and stuck out its long tongue to attack him. In the critical moment, Alex immediately braked and threw the other guy away. Just as he was about to fly up to chase him again, the defense system on the base wall immediately activated. Immediately after, a few bullets turned the Birdman into ashes. Because Alex left the base without permission, he was being checked by the gate guards. After they confirmed that he was not possessed by an angel, they immediately took him to the Archangel's interrogation room. When they knew that Alex had returned, Michael also jumped down from the upper floor. Because Alex had violated the rules by going out without permission, Michael, as the leader of the angel army, immediately took out his whip to punish Alex. Fortunately, at the crucial moment, General Ed Oates personally came forward to beg for mercy. However, Alex had just been exempted from punishment, so he immediately went to his girlfriend Claire. Her father was General Ed Oates just now. However, the difference in rank between Alex and Claire was too great, so the law absolutely did not allow the two to interact. Compared to Alex, William was clearly a much better match for Claire, simply because he was the son of David, the second most powerful man in the city. Moreover, David had always secretly harbored the ambition to overthrow General Ed Oates to monopolize power in Vegas City. Although General Ed Oates knew that the other party was a vicious person, he still did not deal with him. On the contrary, he agreed to announce the engagement between the two families during the Amnesty Festival. Meanwhile, Claire was completely unaware. She was still trying to convince her father to let her and Alex go back and forth. At the same time, Alex's father, Jeep, suddenly returned after 14 years of absence. If he hadn't returned unexpectedly, everyone would have thought he had died long ago. What surprised everyone more was the news he brought with him. It turned out that Gabriel had built a fighting fortress on the Rocky Mountain. At that time, the angels in heaven, who had originally had ill intentions towards humanity, had joined his angel army one after another, plotting to once again start a war with humanity. What was more worrying was that some high-ranking angels had also joined Gabriel's side. Not only do they have entities that can transform into human form, but they also possess powerful combat capabilities that are completely difficult for human weapons to destroy. As soon as Jeep returned, he and Michael decided that it was time to reveal the identity of the Savior, and at the same time proposed to cancel the Great Amnesty Festival. However, this decision was strongly opposed by David. He believed that the story about the Savior was just a fabrication, because because this information would directly threaten his rule. Due to his strong opposition, the Great Amnesty Festival continued to be held as planned. In order to win the hearts of the people, David had the fat woman Alex had met outside brought to the ceremony to execute her on the spot. Without warning, she had been originally caught by David's men while chasing Alex. When the ceremony officially began, David arranged for his bravest and most loyal warrior to confront the angel directly in order to win the hearts of the people. Only then did everyone realize that an angel was being held in the city. At that moment, Michael discovered that the angel was greeting him. He immediately had an uneasy premonition because he felt Gabriel's breath coming from her. Sure enough, she suddenly went crazy and broke the iron chain, killing the so-called bravest warrior. With just one move, the hall immediately fell into chaos. The angel also jumped out of the fence and started the deadly party. Seeing that the situation was out of control, Michael immediately transformed into an archangel, jumped down, and stabbed two twin swords into the opponent's chest. However, this was only the beginning of a larger conspiracy. Taking advantage of the chaos in the hall, a pair of high-level angels quickly flew straight towards Vegas City. Faced with the ferocious high-level angel, Vegas City's defenses instantly became useless. The soldiers opened fire, wanting to shoot them down, but found that the bullets were completely ineffective. In an instant, all the soldiers were thrown to the ground. When they took a closer look, they discovered that it was the high-level angel Phileas, whom Jeep had warned them about earlier. The soldiers wanted to continue attacking, but he easily killed them all. Just a slight flap of his wings would cause more deaths. Fortunately, Archangel Michael appeared in time, spread his wings and jumped down to fight. Facing his old comrades who had fought side by side, Michael was also very sad. However, Phileas loudly called him a traitor. Because of these greedy people, Michael dared to declare war on his own people. At the same time, Alex was also escorting the high-ranking officials to safety. They watched Michael fight tensely, hoping that he could turn the situation around once again. Michael was indeed worthy of his title as the Archangel because he soon gained the upper hand. Under a series of fierce attacks, he successfully knocked down the opponent's weapon. However, just as he was about to send Phileas back to heaven, another high-ranking angel appeared in time and took the opportunity to blow up Vegas City's reactor. The huge shockwave instantly knocked both of them away, and the entire city's power system was cut off immediately. The explosion did not injure Michael, but it did allow Phileas to escape. At this time, the enemy only smiled meaningfully and flew into the sky, disappearing. It seemed that the reactor was their real target. Meanwhile, in a safe place, a little girl took advantage of the chaos to stab Jeep with a fruit knife. The two soldiers immediately opened fire to kill her, but the girl, who was also an angel, quickly overcame the rain of bullets and escaped through the ventilation duct. Before his last breath, Jeep tried to say that Alex was the legendary god. He also instructed them to lead humanity out of the darkness. With Jeep's death, the strange symbols on his body immediately transferred to Alex. Everyone at the scene was extremely surprised. Claire even intended to kneel down to worship. However, David quickly ordered the news to be blocked, clearly fearing that Alex would threaten his position. When Michael returned, he seriously instructed Alex that he absolutely must not let others see those symbols. The situation changed so quickly that Alex was completely unable to accept it. Michael continued to explain that his identity was predetermined by heaven, and he had arranged for Alex to join the angel army since he was young, both to hide his identity and to train him better. According to him, what Alex needs to do now is to decode the mystery of the symbols in order to completely defeat Gabriel and his army of angels. Michael originally thought that Alex would need a lot of time to decode the symbols, but surprisingly, after just one look, Alex deciphered the meaning of a sentence. The sentence said that he had to be wary of those close to him. At the same time, in Gabriel's battle fortress, an important figure appeared. That person was William, David's son. It seemed that Alex's identity was about to be exposed. Low-level fallen angels don't have bodies, so they can only act in the mortal world when they possess humans. This means that if you destroy their bodies, you can destroy them. Even for high-level angels, when they set foot on the mortal world, 99% of their power will be sealed. It's just that their bodies are tough and immune to conventional weapons. In the distant memories, Jeep and his son were playing basketball on the lawn. However, a flock of crows were suddenly startled and flew up. Jeep immediately discovered two possessed monsters crawling on the roof. He immediately told his son to go back to his room to hide, while he pulled out his double guns to fight. When the fallen angel jumped down, he shot it dead with a precise shot. However, there was more than one enemy, and Jeep was quickly knocked down. Meanwhile, Alex was so scared that he could only hide in the house, holding a hunting gun to gain courage. At that moment, he suddenly heard his father's voice from outside the door, telling him to open the door quickly. Unexpectedly, when Alex opened the door, a fallen angel rushed straight at his face. Fortunately, at the crucial moment, Jeep, despite being seriously injured, appeared in time, and with just one shot, he destroyed the enemy. At this time, at his father's funeral, Alex couldn't help but remember the past. Because of his father's sudden death, his mood also became extremely bad. Furthermore, due to the surprise attack of a high-level angel yesterday, Vegas City's reactor was destroyed. It caused the entire power and defense system of the city to be paralyzed. If Michael had not been there to guard it, Claire and everyone else would have been destroyed by the fallen angel army. In addition, this incident also made the high-level officials of the council extremely dissatisfied with David's decision to bring an angel into the city. They originally intended to take this opportunity to remove him from office and investigate him, but were stopped by General Ed Oates. Normally, for someone who was always eyeing his position, General Ed Oates should have taken the opportunity to throw a stone at the opponent and pushed him down the well. However, he repeatedly stood up to protect David. In fact, the reason was because Ed Oates' heart had problems and he was about to die. Ed Oates hoped that after his death, his daughter would still be able to maintain her wealth and honor, so he needed to find her a solid support. This was also the reason why Ed Oates insisted that Claire marry David's son. However, the general's illness had shown signs of acting up for a long time. The fact that he was not dead surprised even the doctors, who would have thought that the leader of humanity in this apocalyptic period would have to leave the city every month to find someone to help prolong his life. That person turned out to be a fallen angel. In another development, in order to conceal Alex's identity as the savior, David killed the soldiers who knew about it one by one and fed them to the lions. Since becoming the chosen one, Alex has been under immense psychological pressure. He wanted to take Claire away from Vegas City. However, with her kind nature, she did not want to abandon the people at this crucial moment. Claire hoped that Alex could face his identity and lead the people to fight against the fallen angels. Meanwhile, Alex just wanted to leave, so the two of them ended up arguing fiercely. At the same time, at Gabriel's castle, a group of fallen angels were celebrating. Knowing about the appearance of the Chosen One made Gabriel even more excited. He believed that if he wanted to find the lost god, he must start with this Chosen One. At the same time, in a nearby place, the Archangel Michael was also summoning Gabriel. After the two met at the beach, Michael used God's name to advise Gabriel to give up attacking humanity. It was obvious that he was extremely dissatisfied with the sudden attack of the high angels last night. However, Gabriel was stubborn and completely ignored him. He believed that God had abandoned humanity because he was too disappointed with them. He also believed that after killing all humanity, God would return. Furthermore, Gabriel revealed the existence of the Chosen One, which immediately alarmed Michael. He immediately returned to the city to find Alex, hoping that Alex could quickly regain his spirits and prepare to face the upcoming crisis. At that time, Alex had just had a fight with his girlfriend, so he was already in a bad mood. After being lectured by Michael, he immediately repeated the warning on the symbol that he had seen last night, that he should be careful with the person closest to him. Therefore, he no longer trusted Michael. Soon after, night fell. Alex thought that he should go and comfort Claire. However, he accidentally bumped into her maid. This collision caused the hidden symbol on his body to appear, and the maid immediately followed. It turned out that this woman was a high-level angel who had been hiding in Vegas City. She immediately flew up and knocked Alex down. Fortunately, because Alex had been trained by Michael for many years, he was able to fight back. So the two of them fought from upstairs to the elevator, and then continued from the elevator to the kitchen. However, in terms of physical strength, Alex was still completely incomparable to a fallen angel. However, he quickly took that opportunity to turn on the gas valve. Just as the angel was about to kill him, he threw out a lighter, instantly igniting the enemy's feathers. Alex then kicked her away. The other angel gradually flew away and finally escaped. Luckily, Claire was only slightly affected. She only suffered a few minor injuries. However, this incident made Alex think of retreating because he did not want the people around him to be injured because of him. So, he took his equipment and drove out of the city that night, disappearing into the endless night. Meanwhile, Alex's departure gave Gabriel a great opportunity. The angel who had escaped earlier also immediately returned to the Rock Mountain. Through her confirmation, Gabriel was finally sure that the Chosen One had really appeared, so he immediately made an appointment with William to meet at a bar outside Vegas City, with the purpose of knowing the exact information about the Chosen One. However, William took this opportunity to show off to him. This made Gabriel extremely angry. He immediately took action and killed all the people in the bar. Frightened by the threat, William had no choice but to obediently reveal Alex's family's background. At the same time, the continuous appearance of many angels in the city made a group of high-ranking figures extremely worried. However, once a high-ranking fleeing angel wanted to hide his identity. Even the Archangel Michael could not recognize them. Because the human world would suppress their abilities, he could only rely on human eyes to distinguish. However, that said, Michael understood that there were still angels in the city who remained neutral. The situation was getting more and more tense. He asked them to clearly express their attitude, either join the human protection side or leave Vegas City, to avoid betraying them from behind at the crucial moment. However, at that moment, a soldier came to Michael and reported that Alex had left. After hearing this, Michael immediately flew up to the sky to chase after him. At the same time, Alex was driving on the wild road. As a result, he suddenly discovered a figure in front of him, and that figure was Michael. At this moment, Alex angrily stepped on the gas and tried to hit him, but Michael remained motionless. At the crucial moment, Alex still decided to swerve the steering wheel. After that, Michael did not rush to advise him. He just got in the car and took Alex to a familiar place. This was the house where he lived as a child. Michael said that because he wanted to protect his son, Alex's mother was killed by a fallen angel right here. Now his father had also just died at the hands of a fallen angel. Michael hoped that Alex could return to protect the survivors. After a while of sincere persuasion, Alex finally agreed to return. However, just as the two were about to return, Michael suddenly became nervous and pulled out the pair of swords from his waist. It turned out that the high angel Phileas had brought 3 fallen angels. Immediately, one of them rushed towards Alex, and Michael had to fight 3 at the same time. Not long after, he had defeated 2 enemies, but just as Michael was about to continue dealing with Phileas, Alex, who was beside him, fell into a dangerous situation. This caused Michael to lose focus. Immediately, Phileas turned around and stabbed him directly in the stomach. When he pulled out the knife, he deliberately left half of the blade in Michael's body. At this moment, Alex finally broke free from the control of the fallen angel. He picked up the gun and shot the man to death, then fired again at Phileas. However, the high angel's wings were completely unharmed by the bullets. However, Phileas did not continue to attack Alex. He only left a word that the two would meet again soon, then immediately disappeared like a puff of smoke. Due to the serious injury, Michael fainted. Meanwhile, Phileas returned to the Rocky Mountain. He originally thought that killing Michael would be rewarded, but he did not expect that Gabriel would be extremely angry after discovering that his brother was killed by Phileas. Gabriel, of course, did not believe that Michael was really dead, but he still called Phileas's sister in front of him, then coldly stabbed her to death. This was a warning, because even though they were on different sides, he would not allow his subordinates to harm Michael. In another development, Alex was driving Michael back to Vegas City, but because of the knife of the high-level angel from heaven, Michael was so weak that he was barely breathing. The medical staff in the city immediately performed first aid, but they were completely unable to heal the wound left by the angel. Just when Michael was on the verge of death, a mysterious person suddenly appeared. She was seen holding an angel feather, dropping a few drops of liquid that immediately saved Michael's life. After recovering, Michael quickly went to his girlfriend Anna's side. However, as soon as the two stopped fighting, a woman with a sharp knife sneaked into the angel tower. Just as she was about to attack Anna, Michael suddenly woke up and immediately held her with one hand. The person who had just appeared was his older sister, Aurel. In order to avoid being discovered by others, Michael immediately spread his wings and flew his sister out. It turned out that Aurel had heard that Michael had almost lost his life, so she had rushed over that night. She even called Gabriel to warn him. She emphasized that he could kill humans at will, but he absolutely could not harm his brothers. In fact, the 3 of them had been inseparable since the beginning. That year, when God caused the great flood to cleanse the earth, it was the 3 of them who came down to earth together to build Noah's Ark. However, at this moment, Gabriel also had unspeakable suffering, because the whole thing had just happened because Phileas had done it on his own. To give a warning, Gabriel even used a knife to kill Phileas's sister. After witnessing that scene, Aurel somewhat calmed down. However, she was still extremely angry that Michael had hidden the identity of the Chosen One. Since God disappeared, heaven had been completely closed. All the angels were expelled from heaven and were stuck on earth. Therefore, if they wanted to find God the Father and restart heaven, they still had to rely on Alex. Aurel tried to persuade her 2 younger brothers to reconcile, but neither Gabriel nor Michael would listen. The 2 younger brothers even took the opportunity to force her to choose sides. The conversation ultimately did not lead to a result. However, after Gabriel left, Aurel told Michael that he needed to train the Chosen One seriously to help that person quickly decipher the mystery of the symbol and complete the mission. She also promised that Michael would not have to face Gabriel alone. In another development, Alex once again fell into that strange dream, and the symbol on his body appeared once again. The second sentence of the symbol meant that this girl had sacrificed herself for him. When he woke up, Alex Alex saw Claire come. Again, it turned out that because he left the city without permission and even almost caused Michael to lose his life, he was arrested that night for treason. Fortunately, Claire had special privileges, so she immediately released him. At the same time, Senior Counselor Rudder also specially summoned General Ed Oates and David to visit the agricultural irrigation system he was researching. This was the source of food for the entire city of Vega, and also the basis of his power. Taking advantage of the moment when the two were not paying attention, Rudder directly slammed the steel door shut. It turned out that he had accidentally overheard Claire saying that the Chosen One had been found. Therefore, he asked both of them to honestly declare the identity of the Chosen One. Otherwise, he would start all the pumps here. At that time, 600 tons of water would drown them to death. And at the same time, the entire city of Vega would also fall into a crisis of extinction due to lack of food. The high-ranking officials called an emergency meeting and appointed Claire as the temporary mayor. The army to protect the food supply was also fully armed and waiting outside the water tower. After Claire knew that the other side wanted to meet the Chosen One, she had to arrange for Alex to participate in the negotiations. Alex took off his coat and showed the symbols all over his body to Rudder. However, this cunning old man thought that those symbols were just temporary drawings to cover up. Alex insisted that he was the Chosen One. When Rudder asked him to prove it, Alex was at a loss for what to do. Suddenly, he remembered the hint from his previous dream, so he immediately told Rudder, "She died for you." Rudder was stunned when he heard this, because when the apocalypse came, his daughter had really sacrificed herself to save her father. Rudder then asked Alex to go out with him to announce his identity to the world, and he also knelt down respectfully. Unexpectedly, General Ed Oates suddenly took out a gun and shot Rudder straight in the head. Alex was immediately panicked but also completely helpless. However, after this battle, he understood that he must stand up and lead everyone to fight against the fallen angel, thereby becoming a worthy savior. Michael immediately began to give Alex special training. During the training, Alex's magazine was almost empty, but he still hadn't shot Michael once. Michael sternly told Alex that he must control his emotions, and because the sunlight was so bright, he should not just stare at the sky, but rely on the shadow on the ground to judge the angel's flight trajectory. While the two were urgently training, a ghostly woman suddenly appeared in Vega City. She was attracted by a music box and wanted to spend money to buy it, but when the woman bowed her head to take the money, she accidentally revealed the characteristics of a fallen angel. The store owner saw it and tried to pull out his gun, despite her pleas. As a result, he was killed by the woman with just one move. Because a murder had just happened in the city, Alex and his teammate Maya were sent on patrol. At that moment, the news came through the radio that a body had been discovered in District 22. The two immediately went to check, and sure enough, they found the body. From the shape of the wound, they clearly realized that this was the action of a fallen angel. Seeing that the body was still hot, Alex and Maya continued to hunt for the culprit in the nearby alley. Very quickly, the two discovered the whereabouts of the woman. However, with the strength of a fallen angel, she continuously lifted trash cans and wooden planks and threw them at them. Both had to desperately dodge. When the woman was about to climb the wall to escape, Alex pulled out a gun and shot her in the buttocks, but she still tried to escape. The two continued to chase her to a warehouse. Immediately after, there was another noise from the ventilation duct on the roof. Alex kept shooting at the ventilation duct and finally forced the fallen angel to come out. She ran down to the basement again. Maya was blocking the way above, while Alex followed the angle downstairs. They had already lost track of each other, but a small drop of liquid that dripped from her head accidentally gave away their position. However, her movements were so fast that Alex could not hit her, even though Heater was close to her face. With no way out, the woman desperately begged Alex to spare her life. She insisted that she did not want to kill anyone, but only wanted to buy a gift for her daughter who was about to get married. Alex initially intended to shoot her, but when he heard her mention her daughter, he suddenly stopped. The moment he took a closer look, Alex immediately realized that this woman was the one who appeared in the photo hanging on the wall in Claire's house, and she was also the black wife of General Ed Oates. In other words, the woman in front of him was his future mother-in-law. It turned out that when the Great War between humans and angels had broken out that year, this woman had been one of the first victims to be incarnated. From then on, she had been secretly kept in captivity by General Ed Oates. To outsiders, he had always said that Claire's mother had died in the Great War that year. Over the years, General Ed Oates had left Vega City every month, in fact, to secretly have an affair with his wife. However, Lanny defied the general's ban, appearing in the city without permission and even causing a series of murders. Faced with this situation, General Ed Oates went to Michael. He begged Michael to kill his wife, because Ed Oates believed that his daughter could not have any stains. Meanwhile, Alex was in a dilemma. In the end, he had to first imprison Claire's mother, then go to Michael to ask if there was a way to exorcise the fallen angel. Michael replied that there was a method, but no one had ever succeeded. Moreover, even if it was successful, the original soul of that body could not return. Despite hearing this, Alex still decided to find the Book of the World to try to exorcise the demon. Claire later found out that her mother was still alive, but had become one of the perpetrators of the destruction of humanity. When Alex persisted in trying to exorcise his mother-in-law, Claire asked him to kill her immediately. She explained that once the fallen angel had successfully entered, it meant that the original owner was dead. However, Alex felt that Lanny's situation was very different, so he tried his best to convince Claire to try exorcism once. So the two of them went to Michael's sister, Urel, because the Book of the World book that recorded the exorcism spell was currently in her possession. When she saw the symbols on Alex's body, Urel was extremely excited. She said that this was the last thing God left behind before disappearing. However, even as an archangel, Urel had no idea what those symbols meant. Alex had something to ask for at the moment, so he couldn't afford to get angry. In fact, the Book of the World was a book without words. For all these years, it had never shown any signs of existence. However, strangely, when Alex picked up the book to read, the symbols on his body seemed to come to life and began to spread, covering areas that were not there. Moreover, the symbols also flowed towards the book. Not long after, an exorcism spell appeared on the empty book. Immediately after, the exorcism ritual officially began. As Alex chanted the spell continuously, the fallen angel gradually became restless, jumping up and down, struggling and begging for mercy. However, one end of the chain was tightly held by Michael, leaving it with absolutely no chance of escape. People obviously had no sympathy for an angel. Finally, after it let out a miserable scream, the dark lines on Claire's mother's face slowly disappeared. Her consciousness finally returned, causing the mother and daughter to immediately hug each other and cry. However, not long after, her whole body convulsed violently. The two immediately turned to ask Michael what was going on. Michael calmly replied that the risk of this secret technique was too great, and Claire's mother's soul had long left her body. The moment she woke up just now was due to a remnant of consciousness. Thus, she was now in a vegetative state. He affirmed that it was Alex who had messed up. This explanation caused Claire to immediately blame Alex. Then she angrily left. However, not long after, she returned, hugging her mother and singing the song that mother had used to sing to her when she was young. In the end, Claire strangled her mother to death with one hand so that she could leave. At the same time, because three high-level angels suddenly appeared in Vega City, the council immediately summoned Michael. The officials believed that the existence of these angels was secretly approved by the archangel, and so they began to lose faith in him, completely forgot that it was thanks to Michael that this city and humanity could survive during the apocalypse. If Michael really intended to harm humans, he would not have gone through such trouble. However, the killing of three neutral angels made him extremely angry. Immediately after, Michael sought out Alex to question whether he had done it himself. Alex immediately affirmed that he was completely unable to see through the disguise of the high-level angel, and even more so, could not deal with three angels at the same time. After listening, Michael gradually calmed down. He understood that the situation in the city was very tense because all the anti-aircraft guns had been activated. Once any angel wanted to fly out, they would immediately be shot to ashes. So Michael told Alex to inform the neutral angel Louis, telling him to tell the other angels to absolutely not leave the city. However, at that moment, Louis's whole body suddenly trembled violently, unable to control himself. When he calmed down, his appearance suddenly changed into the form of the evil angel Gabriel. It turned out that Gabriel had used magic from afar to enter Louis's body, forcing him to become a tool. Thus, it was clear that Gabriel was the one who killed the three angels in the city in order to isolate Michael. In another development, Michael went to find his older sister Urel because only she knew the true identity of the high-level angels. However, when he arrived, he found Urel's place in great chaos. She appeared in pain and said that Gabriel had just come and beaten her to death to force her to reveal all the information about the angels in Vega City. Michael was heartbroken when he saw that scene. However, the truth was that Urel was just acting, because from the previous meeting with the three people, she had secretly promised Gabriel that she would not let him face Michael alone and would even help him. Meanwhile, Alex had also come to Louis's residence to convey a warning about the flight ban in Vega City. He planned to leave immediately after completing the mission, but Louis, who was now possessed by Gabriel, suddenly revealed a part of Michael's dark past. He said that years ago, when God had sent down a great flood to purify the earth, Michael had been ordered to come down to earth to massacre humans. At that time, there had been corpses everywhere, and the one who had caused that tragedy tragedy was the Archangel. According to Gabriel, it was he and Orel who had protected humanity and built Noah's Ark. The ship was not to avoid the Great Flood, but to guard against Michael. However, after many years, the situation was reversed. Gabriel became an evil angel, and Michael became a savior. Alex was extremely confused by this series of information after hearing it. In order to continue to separate them, Gabriel deliberately called him to Michael's angel tower the next day. Shortly after Alex arrived, his teammate Maya also appeared there. Just when the two were still wondering why the other was there, Gabriel suddenly kicked Maya down the stairs. Alex immediately panicked, thinking that Maya would definitely die. However, Maya suddenly spread her wings and flew into the distance. Only then did Alex realize in shock that his teammate who had been by his side day and night was also a high-level angel. Very quickly, Michael returned. At that time, Alex questioned him about why he had hidden Maya's identity and arranged for an angel to be by his side. However, Michael explained that Maya was not a spy, nor was she here to spy on him, but was actually there to protect him. Immediately, Gabriel watched the two argue and laughed smugly. However, this abnormality was noticed by Michael. Louis was abnormal. He immediately discovered that Louis had been possessed by Gabriel. Both Michael and Alex were extremely surprised because they could hardly believe that Gabriel had become so strong that he could possess a high-level angel. Immediately after, Michael wanted to chase Gabriel away, but he was afraid of actually hurting Louis. While he was still hesitating, Alex took the initiative to chant a banishing spell. At first, Gabriel did not pay any attention, but as the spell was repeated, he gradually reacted. Not long after, Gabriel was successfully banished. The Chosen One's remarkable growth surprised him greatly. However, this was exactly what he wanted. Afterwards, the fallen angel Gabriel, who had once been the perpetrator of the destruction of humanity, came alone to the human base during the apocalypse. But he did not kill anyone, but just stood there and took all the bullets. In the end, he even knelt down and offered his sword, inexplicably showing his surrender to humanity. Immediately, Vegas City arrested him and locked him in a special cage charged with tens of thousands of volts of electricity. It turned out that in the many years of fighting with angels, humans had not failed to make progress. They had dissected countless angel corpses and finally discovered their fatal weakness, which was their fear of high-voltage electricity. This weakness is something that even an archangel cannot avoid. Therefore, Gabriel's surrender despite the risk of being executed was clearly an act that contained a great conspiracy. It turned out that the day before, Alex had barged into the meeting room of the high-ranking officials. At this time, he had publicly exposed Archangel Michael for hiding a high-ranking angel in Vegas City, and had also arranged for the angel Maya to infiltrate the army. Alex emphasized that Michael not only lied to everyone, but had even massacred people before. After the high-ranking officials heard the news that Michael had been involved in the bloodbath of humanity during the Noah's Ark period, they completely lost their composure. As a result, the rift between the two sides grew larger and larger. Immediately after, Michael found out that Alex had exposed him and was furious, so he went to find him to settle the score. Before leaving, he also told his girlfriend Anna to protect the angel Louis well. Meanwhile, Alex was patrolling the streets when Michael suddenly fell from the sky and landed right in front of him. In a fit of anger, Michael threw Alex 800 meters away with one hand, then immediately turned around and left Vegas City. Unexpectedly, after he left, Alex drove to the outskirts of the city, and Michael also fell from the sky and flew directly into his car. It turned out that the whole scene of the crack just now was just a play that the two of them had deliberately staged to lure Gabriel away from the rock mountain. When the two of them quickly arrived at a ruin, Alex took this opportunity to ask about the doubts in his heart. Unexpectedly, Michael frankly admitted that he had massacred humans. Michael explained that humans had angered God that year. When God had sent down the Great Flood to cleanse the earth, he had also ordered Michael to go down to earth to kill all humans. Michael could have completely refused that order, but it was the massacre and bloodshed that had fascinated him. Until a surviving boy had appeared, Gabriel and Orel had joined forces and beat him up to protect humanity. Just as Michael had been lying half dead on the ground, the boy he had almost killed earlier brought him water to drink. Michael had been also moved by this. From then on, he firmly loved humanity. He was currently helping humans to atone for his past sins. Meanwhile, the angel Maya also fell from the sky. She followed Michael's instructions and used beauty to lure her ex-boyfriend, the high-ranking angel Phileas, to appear. Michael then took advantage of Phileas secretly meeting with his subordinates to threaten him, forcing him to lead Maya to the rocky mountain and surrender to Gabriel. Phileas was caught by someone else's weakness, so he obediently followed. In the end, he led Maya all the way to Gabriel's castle. At this time, Maya said that there was a rift between the Chosen One and Michael. She herself had been exposed expelled from Vega City, and Michael was currently unable to take care of himself. Therefore, she wanted to take this opportunity to join Gabriel. Phileas, as the introducer, also stood by her side and spoke well of her. However, Gabriel was inherently suspicious and was not easily fooled. He immediately turned around and immediately detained Maya. Very quickly, after a day and a night of waiting, Michael immediately realized that their plot had been discovered. Feeling that the situation was not good, he and Alex hurried back to Vega City. At the same time, Gabriel had already appeared on the outskirts of Vega and had taken the initiative to surrender his weapon to the humans. He was immediately imprisoned in a cage that generated tens of thousands of volts of electricity. This prison was made from a special material, similar to the knife that Phileas had used to almost kill Michael before. Soon after, Alex and Michael returned and told Claire about their entire plot. Michael had always been steadfast on the side of the humans. Ever since she discovered the truth about her mother, Claire had forced General Ed Oates to abdicate, and then officially became the female lord of Vega City. When he saw Gabriel being imprisoned, Michael was sure that the other party could not be as simple as it appeared. He went before Gabriel alone, but the other party revealed a horrifying secret. Humans had always been conducting experiments on angels. After hearing the news, Michael immediately went to Ed Oates' basement. Sure enough, he had witnessed with his own eyes countless angel specimens being kept. Even the bodies of the high-level angels who had been killed earlier were transported here. Seeing the scene of his kind being subjected to cruel experiments, Michael was extremely angry. At the same time, Alex also realized something was wrong with the call, so he immediately followed them to the laboratory. The two of them continued to investigate further. Very quickly, they discovered a pair of severed angel wings, and Lewis was dying on the bed. His body was covered with stitches, to the point where he was almost no longer human. Dead. At Lewis' final plea, Michael had no choice but to endure the pain and stab him to death. Immediately after, with Gabriel's orders, the two possessed soldiers pulled out their guns and shot the guards nearby, then opened the cage and released him. At this moment, Anna also arrived at the underground laboratory. She explained that all she did was to protect Vega City and find the weakness of the high-level angel. Although she admitted that she had killed the angel, her feelings for Michael were still real. However, at this moment, Michael's heart was filled with anger. Despite Alex's advice, he killed his girlfriend Anna. After continuing to kill two guards, Alex and Michael engaged in a fierce battle. Only when he himself bled did Michael seem to suddenly regain his senses. Looking at the tragic death of his girlfriend and the room full of angel specimens, he was left with unspeakable pain. Finally, Michael spread his wings and flew away from this land of sorrow. At the same time, Gabriel appeared before Alex and asked him to accept his instructions. If Alex did not agree, he would level the entire city of Vega. After saying that, Gabriel flew into the air, leaving Alex in confusion. The next day, after a sleepless night, Alex wrote a letter and asked his close brother to bring it to Claire. Alex told him to protect Claire well. When Claire received the letter, Alex had already left. In the letter, he wrote to his unborn son. Yes, although Claire was married to William, the child in her womb was Alex's blood. At this time, Alex went alone to Gabriel's castle in the suburbs. He would repeat his father's fate, leaving his son since birth, and alone set out on the path to shoulder the mission. The movie ends here. Thank you for watching, goodbye, and see you again.